We're rolling.
Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast.
The Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 73, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Koth.
And I'm Jack Haas.
And here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
So today we have a very special guest, Mike Michalowicz, and you will know him from his great books, The Surge, Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, and others. He was a great guest. Unfortunately, we missed the recording the very first question, or I should say I missed the recording of the very first question. So we're going to join this interview right when he's answering, talking about how he started and his initial background.
Take it away, guys.
I thought, at 500,000 it happens, or $1 million, or $3 million, and I had one company at 7 million, and no profit. Coincidentally, the stress level was increasing. The more sales I had, the more stressed I was about maintaining my obligations to my clients, running my infrastructure. And ultimately, I had the great collapse. So I was able to sell two of my companies. That was my lucky exits. But my third business, I couldn't sell it. It was a disaster, and I lost all my money. And that woke me up to there's got to be a better way. And what I realized is, first of all, I'm not alone. Many entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs, I believe, in small businesses struggle to be profitable. But what I found is the formula that we've all been told works. Sales minus expenses equals profit. Profit's the bottom line after all. That's the words we use. When we put profit last in the formula, when we call it the bottom line or the year end, we say it comes last, and we experience the perpetual manana syndrome. We delay the focus on profit. So what I did was I flipped the formula. I take the profit first, and by taking profit first, sure enough, I became profitable. I take the money, hide it away, run my business off the remainder, repeat that process, and now profit is baked into my business like an event. I'm like a habit. It's not an event that'll happen in the future. It's baked into every transaction.
So let me ask you this. When you find, and you experience this yourself, what was the overall problem? Obviously, every widget that you're selling has profit built into it. So do you find that most entrepreneurs just overestimate the income and underestimate the expenses? Or, where was the calculation wrong as far as the profit being missing?
Yeah, so funny thing is mathematically, the profit was always there, but there's a behavioral tendency. It's called Parkinson's law. He was a theorist in the 1950s that discovered that as a resource expands in its availability, our consumption will increase. What happened was the widget was profitable. But then whenever I saw money in the bank account left over, I said, oh, now we can buy that equipment we need. Oh, I can make that higher. So the kind of the administrative costs and the behind the scenes general costs started to expand consistently and all the time. And what I found is my business and most businesses, as sales increase, uncannily expenses run in parallel with it. And that goes back to this Parkinson's law. The cash expands in its availability. I expand my consumption. So by removing the profit first and hiding for myself, I never saw it. And then I had to become innovative. I said, well, my widget's profitable and I don't have enough money to hire someone. Profit's been taken aside. Then I say, how can I do this without the new hire? Can I get more out of my current people? Maybe part-timers, or maybe I'm offering or doing some services that aren't necessary. Maybe I can extract those. So just change the perspective of my business. By taking your profit first, you have to reverse engineer your profitability and make it a reality.
Yeah, I think in your book, and I think of it like most people grow to their size of their fishbowl.
Yes.
They, when their monthly budget, their personal budget, and then I think in your book you even described it as your business can become a monster.
Right. I did. So I love that analogy. We do grow to the size of a fishbowl, but no fish outgrows the bowl until the bowl expands, and then the expansion begins again.
Right.
The reason I call it a monster is that sales really translates to obligation. Every time we have a sale, we are obligated to deliver on that to our customer who paid for it. So as sales increase, so does our obligation. And the greater the obligation we have, the more stress it puts on our organization to deliver on that. It's literally a driver of stress. The serum to stress is profitability. because profitability translates to sustainability. But most businesses, and why this becomes a cash-eating monster, is they continue to increase sales, more stress in the organization, no profit, and then they think the solution is, well, more sales. Clearly, there's no profit left over. I got to sell more. And they stay in this process of actually selling to cover expenses, not selling to bring about sustainability, profit.
What's your thoughts on companies like Amazon and things where they're just growing, they're huge, and Jeff Bezos just recently became, I don't know if he was the highest net worth or something, highest earner in the world or whatever. But they don't turn a profit, right? This is always something as a kind of blue collar, guy who buys and sells houses. I don't understand that mentality or how that works.
I don't get it either. I think Amazon, all those companies like them are horrible examples because they're not the reality. I consider them as the lottery winners of the entrepreneurial space. Okay. It's similar to seeing, hey, some guy down the street won $1 billion in the mega billion lottery. That's a good investment strategy. Let's all start putting money into the lottery. It's foolish. I am not discounting what Jeff Bezos did. It is amazing. He's very talented, but as much he was in the right place at the right time and is very, very, very lucky. And I suspect he would suggest the same. So is Facebook. So is Mary Kay. So is all these mega corporations. Good fortune bless them. The vast majority, which means the reality of entrepreneurship, is not these mega successes on the cover of Inc. magazine. In fact, will never be on there. It's a much more of a day-to-day kind of grind it out. The shame, though, is we take it to the other extreme. We say, since we don't have Amazon, I have to have all the burden on myself. I have to grind out. I have to sacrifice every element of my life just for survivability. I don't believe that's the solution at all. I believe that as small businesses, the right size business can find us. We don't have to be these mega companies, and they can be very profitable. I think the method to get there is profit first.
Sure. So, most people are going to, Josh and I talk about this quite often. We have a tendency of running away from pain instead of running towards pleasure.
Yeah.
So what do you find is the reason that most people are apprehensive of starting this type of program?
Yeah, well, because it's human. It's human. And we are very much in the day-to-day survival. And so what the day-to-day survival is we look at our, the issues, the urgent issues. I got a client that's complaining. I have a lack of sales. And we jump to these situations and solve them. And in the moment, it feels really rewarding. It's like, oh, I took care of that one issue with the client. I made that one sale. But then the next day, this cycle repeats over and over again. And so we jump into it. What I realized is to change our behavior and get out of that day-to-day survival is very hard. Whatever your habits are, if it's smoking or something like that, you may know smoking is bad for you. Probably everyone knows it, but it doesn't mean we're going to stop smoking. It's an established habit. So the goal is to capture an existing habit and actually channel the energy used in that habit to bring the result we want. Perhaps one good way to stop smoking traditional cigarettes is to try an electronic cigarette. Maybe, I don't know if they're healthier. I'm not suggesting that, but the habit gets to stay the same. That's probably an easier transition than going cold turkey. Well, with profit, instead of, not getting out, instead of saying, you know what, we got to be very disciplined, read your income statement, your cash flow statement, stop looking at your bank accounts. Instead of doing that, let's just capture our existing behavior. And the existing behavior of most entrepreneurs is on a day-to-day basis, we're putting out fires and we're logging into our bank accounts to see if we have money to sustain. Since we log into the bank accounts and ignore all this reporting and quarterly planning and all that stuff and revert to in-the-moment decision-making, the Profit First system is designed to be at the bank. We set up a profit account at the bank. We set up an owner's pay account to pay you, the owners. We set up a tax account. We set up accounts for different purposes. So now as money flows in the business, it's pre-allocated to its intended purpose. I get to continue to behave the same way, log in my bank accounts, and now based upon where I see the money, I know its intended use and will behave much more prudently without having to change who I am at all.
It reminds me a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Jack. It reminds me a lot of when I started an IRA 20-some years ago, and I just had the money automatically taken out and invested, and I didn't have a chance to spend it. Do you kind of equate it to similar behavior? If I don't see it out of sight, out of mind, I'm not going to spend it.
Yeah, and I suspect your lifestyle didn't get compromised, or if it did, you probably didn't even notice how it got compromised. What happens is it's human nature to adjust. So when we have less money available for our day-to-day living, initially, if it's a step down, we'll feel a little bit of pain, but very quickly, often within days or weeks, we're like, okay, this is my new standard of living, and we adjust, and that money piles up behind it. That's what Profit First does, is when we start taking profit out, there's a little bit of an adjustment period. But if we do it slowly but consistently, it's not that hard at all. And very quickly, your business, you adjust the way you run your business. You don't even notice that money is set aside. And then 20 years later or 2 quarters later, I mean, it happens pretty fast in business, similar to your IRA, Josh, we see this money piled up. It's like, wow. And the best part about that profit is designed to reward you. Profit is a celebratory account. It's a reward to the shareholders, the owners of the business. You don't ever plow it back or reinvest in the business. That simply means we called it profit, but it's not. It's really an expense. We gave it a nice term, but we're spending the money now. So it really has always been an expense. Mm-hmm. Profit comes out and rewards the shareholders.
What's your thoughts on, this is brought up a thought, the income tax system is completely based on this, right? They withhold. So it comes out of your checks versus everyone having to come up with the money out of pocket. I mean, what percentage do you think of Americans would be able to write a check for the taxes they owe at the end of the year if it wasn't being withheld?
No one. Because listen, I've lived that, right? So I have to do quarterly payments, and for years, when that bill would come, I'd be like, how much do I owe? Where do I get it? I would literally have sales go on for my customers to pay my taxes. And I wouldn't tell customers, hey, it's tax time, I have no money. I would just say, hey, so funny, we're approaching quarter end or year end, and here's this great sale that's going on. And all the money would go right to the government. And I would be so PO'd at the government for stealing my money. Mm-hmm. Once I had the money come out in advance, so you can do the same thing like in payroll, have the money come out in advance for taxes. You can do it in Profit First. As that money came out in advance and has been reserved, and then I issue a check through my business to the government to pay my tax bill, now I'm like, hey, it's weird. I feel good writing a check to the government because it's all been covered. It's been accounted for. Mm-hmm. So and it feels like it was never my money. The business reserved on my behalf. It's technically, it is a shell game. We're just putting stuff in little envelopes or buckets, but behaviorally, it's a mind shifter. It really effectively works with our habits.
So just backing up to something that you just said, is that, you said to slowly ratchet up those accounts?
Yes.
Would you say that's possibly one of the biggest downfalls if somebody doesn't stick with it?
Yes. So we now estimate, Jack, over 75,000 businesses have implemented and are sticking with Profit First. We're approaching 100,000, but we think hundreds of thousands have attempted and failed. And we've had the good fortune of kind of learning from both sides of what's worked. And the significant difference that we've discovered is that businesses that fail go into abruptly. They try to do the entire Profit First system at high percentages. Maybe a business has never been profitable. They say, you know what? Starting today, 10% of the money that comes into our business is going right to profit. We're going to pay ourselves more. We're going to reserve more for taxes. It's such an abrupt change, it hurts the business. Mm-hmm. The analogy is kind of like a marathon. If you have never run a marathon and want to prepare for a marathon, I'll tell you what not to do at the first practice you take. Don't run a marathon for your first practice. You don't do the end goal on the first day. We need to build that muscle. Stretching is probably the best way to start. With Profit First, we tell businesses, if you've never been sustainably profitable, we're going to just take 1%. Or maybe you've had profit in the past, and on average, it's been 5%. We're going to only bump that up to 6% now. We're going to reserve 6% in advance because it's only an incremental shift. Once you kind of build up that muscle, then we'll change it up to 7%, 8%, maybe on a quarterly basis. So the rollout of getting your profitability to the target you want maybe will take 8 quarters, 2 years. But you'll be building the muscle, and once you get there, you'll be in the position to permanently stay there.
Now, you have a system where businesses can enroll and get trained directly by your team, or you have kind of endorsed providers or how does that?
Yeah, it's more like endorsed providers. We call them Profit First professionals. Okay. These are standalone accountants, bookkeepers, and coaches. We call them ABCs, who have become certified in our process. So I'm at my office right now. We're a small office. There's 10 of us. Mm-hmm. The other team, the remaining 9, are effectively trainers and educators, and they certify our ABCs. The thing what we do that we mandate is if someone wants to teach Profit First to others through our organization, they first must master Profit First in their own business. They have to live by it, so they know it inherently. So we audit them, we train them, we recertify them year in, year out, and they in turn, these Profit First professionals, have helped these entrepreneurs. And we have a global presence. So we have 300 plus ABCs working with us throughout the globe now, helping small businesses with this process.
Where can businesses go to find out more about that program in particular?
Yeah, thanks for asking. You can just Google Profit First Professionals. The website's by the same name, profitfirstprofessionals.com.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to your new book you have coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. I believe it's right behind you there in the video.
Yeah,
right?
Perfectly positioned for my
Yep.
marketing. Yeah. So it's called Clockwork. It comes out August 21st. We're recording this literally 1 week before the release.
Awesome.
My nerves are on edge. What the book is about is designing your business to run itself. What I realized is there is this Maslowian hierarchy of needs, if you will, for small business. The foundational element that every business needs for its survivability is sales. If there's no inbound sales, no inbound trigger for cash flow, inbound, we're not going to be able to do anything. So you must sell. And I think every entrepreneur inherently knows that. The thing is, the next level up, the nutrition for the business is profitability. Profitability brings about sustainability. Sales just brings about inbound cash flow. So once we have sales coming in, we must extract profit. Otherwise, we'll wilt away and die over time. Sadly, most businesses think that more sales will solve that, but it doesn't. We have to bring about sustainable profitability. Well, the next level up is once you have sustainable sales, once you have permanent profitability, the next level up is time. The business owners realize that, working 24 hours a day, sacrificing time with family, just grinding it out constantly is no way to live. What we want to do then is recapture our time so we can use our time the way we want to, both in our lives and insert ourselves in the business in the way we want. So Clockwork is about how do you as an owner extract yourself from the business, have the business continue to grow independently of you, and then you now have the freedom to do what you want in life, and within the business, you can do your zone of genius, the stuff you really love to do.
It's kind of interesting that you're bringing this up because it kind of goes against some of the really popular podcasts.
I know.
I'm not gonna say some names because right now it's a really hard tackle it, push hard.
I know. I know, and it's
hustle, grind,
hustle and grind are the two hot words today. It used to be workaholic. We used to call ourselves, be a workaholic, and now it's hustle and grind as a softer, more, I think, a term we can use as a Superman badge. Here's what I don't like about it is we do need to hustle and grind. When you're the early startup, when it's just you, that's all you have to depend on. But there's a certain point where you serve your business better by not doing the work, but designing the outcome, meaning having a vision for where we want to take it, but coordinating the resources, the people, the tools we have, orchestrating that to work collaboratively to move us toward a goal. We have to move to the thinking phase, which there's a statue dedicated to this. It's the thinker. There's a naked guy sitting there with his chin on his fist thinking, and that contemplation is very important to move our business strategically. So hustle and grind, I get it in the beginning, but it frustrates me that business owners think that's the only way. That simply is how you get a spark started. But then when the spark is sparking, we need to get the fire, blazing, and that's a whole different approach.
Yeah, this is you're speaking to the right crowd. When it comes to real estate, most people got into real estate investing for the passive income.
Yeah.
But what I think what happens is we all get on the same fix and flip bandwagon or the wholesale bandwagon, and that's a very active activity that requires a lot of pushing.
Yeah, it does, right? And particularly in the beginning, again, because you don't necessarily know how to do all that stuff. So the more you insert yourself, the more you learn. And you see what's called a false positive. The harder you work, you will see the business start to increase. The false positive is then we think the only way for the business to increase is for me to insert myself more. But that caps out. So we do need to spark the business, but then we need to start extracting ourselves. And the way to do that is through systems. We have to understand, we have to be able to teach what we master. So as we figure something out, capture it. And I'm a big believer not in SOPs or checklists so much as I am in recording. If you're doing stuff on the computer, you screen capture. If you're on site at some real estate, pull out that smartphone of yours, film what you're doing so the next person can replicate your behavior. Then observe them. How are they performing? Are they failing to achieve the outcome you wanted? If they are, how do you guide them to get the outcome you wanted? The goal, or it's mandatory here, that we don't reinsert ourselves and take over the job. Then we are not learning. The employee's not learning. The business isn't growing. When the employees are not achieving the outcome that we want, our job is to guide them to the outcome we want and ensure that it becomes a repeatable process. Therefore, extracting ourselves from the business, the day-to-day.
How do you deal with business owners that know that no one else is going to be able to do the job as well as them?
The ego, right?
Right.
So that's this guy right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no one's as good as me. I was in 2 tech businesses, and I'm like, no one can get as well as me. And I had to play my ego in itself. And I said, do I want to be the guy that's hustling all the time doing the work, or do I want to be the guy that owns the business with all the other people hustling and doing the work? And my ego finally said, no, I want to be the guy who owns a business. I don't want to be in the business. I want to own it. I don't want to be the employee. And I just shifted my ego. I also realized that thinking strategy is actually harder than doing. It is easier, even though it may be more exhausting, it's easier to jump back in the business and just start doing stuff. We see immediate results. We know how to do things. Thinking about the business and moving strategically, thinking steps ahead, is a lot harder. It uses a lot more mental energy. So I also noticed that I resisted it. I had to toughen up, again, playing to my ego, saying, how bad do I want this? Am I willing to make the effort to think smart? And by challenging my own ego, I was able to slowly transition out. One other thing I did was with my colleagues here. I'm an author with 10 employees. That's very atypical. Mm-hmm. But it's the realization that I need to pull myself out. I've empowered them where they resist me coming back in. They are making decisions that I'm not aware of, but I know it moves the business forward. And if I reinsert, I will mess up the system and they will push back on me. So I think it's this empowerment of employees to make proactive decisions, to drive the outcome for the business with total independence of you as the owner is another way to remove yourself.
Well, I'm really looking forward to reading this book because it's coming at a right time. Josh and I are on the verge of possibly bringing in an administrative assistant or something.
Nice.
And it does spur a lot of thoughts regarding that.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. But that's, by the way, the way to get started. Clockwork, I have 7 steps to making the business run itself. And it's a very surgical, methodical process. The mistake I found that entrepreneurs and myself were making was thinking that one day I'll be working in the business, and then another day, magically, with that big client will come in or some moment will happen where I'm no longer working in the business and I'm now strategically planning for the business. And it isn't a switch like that. It's a throttle. So I love that you're taking that first step. And it's going to be a sequence of steps, I believe, that will get both you guys out of the business and really, truly being owners.
Well, we can't thank you enough. I think we're at kind of at time, and I think we could actually talk to you all afternoon. So with that, Mike, I think you have a unique URL to find you, right? Mike Motorboat?
Yeah, Mike Motorbike. So
Mike Motorbike.
Yeah, so my website's MikeMichalowicz.com, but very few people can spell that. My nickname in high school was Mike Motorbike. Here's the irony, guys. I never driven a motorcycle in my life. But my name is Mike Motorbike, so I'll own it. So if you go to MikeMotorbike.com, my website has all my books up there, free chapter downloads. I'm a blogger. I'm a podcaster. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal for many years. You can even get my articles from the Wall Street Journal for free, all by going to MikeMotorbike.com.
We really appreciate your time and talking to us today. Thank you very much.
Jack, Josh, thank you both.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
That was Mike Michalowicz. We couldn't thank him enough for being on the show. And his book is out now on August 21st, Clockwork, Design Your Business to Run Itself. Plan on picking it up myself. It should be a great read. We will have a link in the show notes to take you over to Amazon to pick that up. So if you have any questions or feedback, shoot us an email at info@reiRookies.com.
Hit us up on Facebook or Twitter at REI Rookies. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other rookie investors out there find the show.
And remember, get off the bench
and get into the game. We'll see you next time.